now. We will be focusing on 6 of the major issues that have plagued the Middle East for most of the last century. Those are the Arab-Israeli conflict, government corruption, the overthrowing of governments, oil, nuclear weapons, and energy. The Arab people had been living in the land of Israel, formerly called Palestine, at the end of World War II, when the Zionist movement, or the movement to return to Israel, gained steam. Jewish people began to move back to the ancient homeland of the Jews, and a conflict began. The Arabs did not want the Jews taking their land, and the Jews wanted the land that they had lived on first back. The creation of the State of Israel and the recognition by the United Nations was the final straw for most Palestinians, and war broke out in 1948. This war, while not always armed, has been going on since. In modern days, this war takes place in terrorist attacks and military attacks between Palestinian territories in Israel and the Jewish territories. CNN reporter Mick Crever says the Israelis are blind to the fact that there are a Palestinian people. He said, and the Palestinians are blind to the Israelis and their right to a Jewish state in the ancient homeland of the Jews. Whether peace between these two groups is a practical option in the coming years is yet to be seen. Corruption is the name of the game for a lot of Middle Eastern countries. Corruption is when a person or group of people abuse power and have secret dealings or take bribes. In a survey done by Transparency International, they ranked every country in the world from 1 to 177 on the level of their government corruption. Here is how the Middle Eastern countries ranked. Saudi Arabia, 63, Libya, 172, Turkey, 53, Oman, 61, Yemen, 167, Egypt, 114, Israel, 36, Kuwait, 69, Bahrain, 57, Qatar, 28, Iran, 144, Iraq, 171. This is a real issue because the government is what runs the people, and if it is corrupt, the people of the country stop trusting their government. This has led to a bunch of anti-government revolutions in the Middle East in the past years. In recent years, we have seen a number of governments overthrown in a movement called Arab Spring. These protests began in Tunisia, in which they were successful at overthrowing the government. Other countries in which this movement has been successful are Egypt, Libya, and Yemen. Other countries have also had protests, such as Syria, Saudi Arabia, and Sudan. These have ongoing political protests. Bahrain unsuccessfully had an uprising against their government. The reason these uprisings are important is that it is showing that everybody has a voice, and the citizens of these different countries are tired of being oppressed and being subject to government corruption, and they want their voices to be heard. And the only way to do that is by making noise. Oil in the Middle East is controlled by an organization called OPEC, which stands for Oil and Petroleum Exporting Countries. In recent years, there have been a few problems plaguing oil companies, most notably the political mess of some countries. Leaders of oil-rich states had been throwing money at the oil problem, and then, when they were overthrown in some cases, or just had a period of political uncertainty, they had to face the fact of unsustainable subsidies and wage bills. In an attempt to break even on their expenses producing the product, companies have had to hike up their oil prices to a record high of $100 per gallon of crude oil. If something does not change soon, the oil companies' sluggish growth could result in an economic fall in coming years. In recent years, Iran has vowed to stop the 20% per year uranium enrichment program and not to enrich uranium by more than 5% in this period. It also said it would dispose of the 20% enriched uranium stock to suspend construction of the heavy water reactor that has been under construction and not to deploy new uranium enrichment centrifuges and to broaden the access of IAEA inspectors to nuclear sites. This is a big deal because it would make Iran's nuclear program depreciate, which would also lead to stop their aggressive foreign policy. Also, Iran has a large terrorism rate, and groups like Hamas and Hezbollah would have less access to nuclear weapons. Lastly, by disarming their nuclear program, Iran possesses less of a threat to other countries in military terms. In March of 2014, Egypt realized it would need $1 billion worth of petroleum products to secure significant natural gas supplies to meet this summer's energy needs. Egypt hopes to import liquefied natural gas to help curb the energy crisis currently plaguing the nation. But if this idea fails, then it will have extremely limited options for fuel supply in the summer. This energy crisis is not unique to Egypt. There is also a concerning energy crisis within Syria because of the ongoing civil war. If these countries do not find a way to stop the crisis, a lot of innocent civilians could be in danger without an equitable energy supply. This concludes our State of the Middle East, Where Are We Now press conference. Hopefully, all of these issues will resolve in the coming months and years, so the Middle East can work towards a better future for all parties involved.